They're not all equal. Apologize for the lighting. There's no way in heck I'm getting up to go turn on lights to talk about this crap shack of a game. Mariners lose 4-2. They fall to 59-55 on the season, and they lose the first of the 3-game set against the Detroit Tigers. Go over the scoring plays. 4th inning, Parker Meadows singles to center to score Winsel Perez, 1-0. 5th inning, Colt Keith singles to right. Singles. 2-0. We'll talk about it because it scores Zach McKinstry. And then Perez singles to right to score Javi Baez. 3-0 in the middle of the 5th. Mariners get their one. Well, they got another one. Totally forgot about it. Luke Raley homers to center to make it 3-1. 8th inning, Meadows homers to right to make it 4-1. In the 9th inning, Jorge Polanco singles. Oh, I can't even. 4-2 Mariners. That's it. That's all there is. Mariners lose. The positives, because I've got some negatives to talk about. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this one. If completely forthright with you, I thought Luis Castillo pitched really well today. The line of 6 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs, and you say, that's not so great. He was much better than that. We'll talk about why too. He was getting. There were we can just talk about it, and we'll talk about the negative of it in the negative section. But just a lot of weak contact. He got BABIP to death. There were just ground ball after ground ball that found a hole, and then some scorekeeping that it's just a game. But I thought he pitched really well. I thought a very fine baseball game. Deserved a lot better. And even if he didn't, well, we'll get there. I thought Austin Voth pitched really well. And I have been really impressed with Jonathan Hernandez now that I know he's a Seattle Mariner, which I did not know again until I saw him come in that game. But there's never been a question about Hernandez's stuff. It's can he throw enough quality strikes? Well, so far, through 2 appearances, he's done just that. He has the stuff to someday be a high leverage guy. And I realize I just said that about Mike Baumann, and the Baumann thing didn't work out. I think he's now on his 14th organization since that trade to the Mariners. But I thought those guys, all 3 of them pitched well. We'll talk about another guy too in the second half of the show. Won't be a super long one. I've actually got some work to do tonight. Offensively, Luke Raley homers. Luke Raley hit a homer. Simply Seattle provides the very best in Seattle sports gear. Great stuff for the Mariners, the Seahawks to crack in the storm. Seahawks, Huskies, Cougars, you can find it all at Simply Seattle. And once you find it, make sure you use code MOLLYWOP15 because it takes 15% off of your order. So if you spend $100, it's going to go down to $85. That's how math works. So thankful for Simply Seattle. Awesome stuff. Great original stuff. Great hoodies. It's almost hoodie weather again. It's almost there. Can't wait for it. Hoodies and shorts. That's all I ask for. And you can find both of those things at simplyseattle.com. MOLLYWHOP15. A link in the description to make it nice and easy for you. Trent Thornton. I know he gets to 2 strikeouts. I mean, you can't throw a worse. So here's the reason you can throw a worse slider than that. Because if we tried to throw that slider, we wouldn't get anywhere close to that amount of break. It'd probably go 45 feet, and we would need to go get surgery, right? Especially us old people. I'm 41. If I tried to throw that pitch, you would literally hear the cracking. However, a major leaguer can't throw a pitch worse than that. And there's just too much of that from Trent Thornton. Sometimes that slider looks wipeout. Far too often, it's just a frisbee in terms of the break that it has and also in how easy it would be to hit it. Now, you couldn't hit a frisbee very far, but you'd pick it up pretty quickly. He just can't be a high leverage guy, and I think it's nice that he hasn't been used as a high leverage guy as of late. The defense tonight was pathetic. There is just no range in this infield right now. Outside of Josh Rojas. Oh, it's bad. It's just a really bad defensive group. And look, there were 2 scoring plays tonight. One of them not the scorekeeper's fault, and one of them very much the scorekeeper's fault. That are a great example of why ERA is such a flawed stat. Number one of the run scores, and you heard me not moan, it's not the right word. You heard me groan about it being called a single. That ball goes flat out underneath Luke Raley's glove. It had an expected batting average of 180. Are you freaking kidding me? That is an absolute error. If that's not an error, then just don't have errors. Just get rid of the stat. What in the hell is the point of that stat if that's not an error? You tell me. And then in the 9th inning, Jorge Polanco flies out very meagerly to center field. Or so we thought. The ball just drops, right? It just drops. Center fielder needs to call that baseball. It just drops. They don't call that an error because this is where they just don't call those errors. They really want to take subjectivity out of it. But that's your job. It's literally your job. Your job is to make subjective calls. Why am I more mad about this than the Mariners getting absolutely worked by a terrible pitcher tonight? I'll tell you why. It's because I see it all the time. My job is literally covering baseball games. Your job is to be able to create. I don't know what makes me mad. And it pisses me off because Luis Castillo should have given up at most 2 earned runs tonight. But that run gets charged to him. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm also saying it's not that freaking hard. Absolutely pathetic. I don't know who the scorekeeper is. I know they rotate guys and all that stuff. I hope you have a good night and you get massively better at your job. Speaking of getting better at your job, so the defense was bad. The offense was awful. Peter Montero is not a horror. He's pretty terrible. Right now, he's pretty terrible. What I was trying to say is that he has a long-term chance to be a back-end starter, right? He's been dog turds all year. Just steeping dog turds. The kind of dog turd that you get really disappointed that's in your yard because you're not going to be able to pick that up. And you just pray for rain. And he made the Mariners look like that beautiful picture that I just painted for you. I'm quite the poet. One positive thing here, Justin Turner gets hit, and that is not the positive. But it sounds like, or doesn't sound like, x-rays came back negative. He's day-to-day, though, so I'm guessing he won't be in the lineup tomorrow. That's my guess. But at least avoided probably a long-term injury. Bruises, you got to wait for someone, blah, blah, blah. When he was in the game, he wasn't good. He was not good at all. Mitch Haniger was awful. Randy Arozarena was really bad. And look, it's the first time we've talked about Randy Arozarena in the negative section. But he had a horrible baseball game. Hits into 2 huge double plays. Can't happen. He is supposed to be right now the Mariners' best hitter. Him and Big Dumper. And Big Dumper was bad today too. Jorge Polanco, he ends up getting the RBI, but a wretched baseball game from him that reminded me way too much of what I've seen from Jorge Polanco prior to the middle of July. The start of July. And yeah, sure, he was due. Yeah, I'm not asking Randy Rosarina to get on at a 600 clip. I'm not asking Big Dumper to hit 300, 400, 500. I'm asking for offensive competence when you face a horrible, right now, horrible major league pitcher. And oh, by the way, not only were you bad against him, you faced off against the Detroit bullpen that sucks. Former Mariner legend Will Vest, Bill Bradsky. I'm always going to call Bo Brieske Bill Bradsky. Look it up. Jason Foley, who was supposed to be the closer, got moved out of that role. You got worked by those guys. The only reason you scored a run against that bullpen is because of beyond incompetence, something that in middle school you would say, oof, this may not be for him. I think you can tell I'm a little cranky right now, and it's not because, well, I did work 5-1. Maybe that has a little bit to do with it. I saw discourse. Online, and we'll talk about it real quick to end the game. And then I actually, again, have to get back to work. So after that incompetence, they bring in Tyler Holton, who has picked up some saves for them. I think this was his fourth. So Luke Raley's due up, and they pinch hit for Mitch Garver. And I know what Mitch Garver's going through right now. I can't exactly say it, although I've been widely open with my own stuff. And I'm not saying Mitch Garver's going through the same thing, but, he's talked about how hard it's been, all that stuff. There was a lot of complaining that I saw online. And, that happens. And everyone's entitled. Hate that term. Nobody's going to jail for thinking that you should have Luke Raley face a left-handed hitter. I don't know if I could disagree with you anymore. It would be impossible. It would almost be as impossible as a major leaguer throwing as bad a slider as Trent Thornton threw. In 20 at-bats against relievers, Luke Raley, against left-handed relievers, Luke Raley has picked up 3 hits and he struck out 11 times. He has an OPS on the year of 497 against lefties. Mitch Garver, as bad as he's been, has an 800 OPS against left-handed pitching. What the hell are you talking about? Come on. I'm not saying that Mitch Garver should be in the lineup every day or anything close. I've made my thoughts on what Mitch Garver should be abundantly clear. He's your backup catcher who is here to get some playing time against left-handed pitching for the rest of the year. That's all he should be. Doesn't matter how much money he's making. You really think that it's a better decision to hit Luke Raley against a left-hander than Mitch Garver? You really believe that? No, you don't. You're just a victim of recency bias, and it happens to all of us. It happens to me. We're all victims. It all happens to all of us, not just in sports, in life. The hot hand fallacy, blah, blah, blah. No, it was absolutely the right call. Scott Service makes some terrible decisions, just like every other major league manager. That's not one of them. That's not one of them at all. Come on. The problem, too, is when you complain about something like this, when there are legitimate issues, like leaving a reliever in for too long or going to the wrong reliever in the wrong situation, when those are legitimate things that you can complain about, if you just complain about something like this, which is an absolute no-brainer decision, a guy who has a OPS of 303 points higher, when you complain about that, it means that I can't listen to your other complaints. You become the boy who cried wolf. I get it. I'm as frustrated by it as anyone. That's nonsense, guys. That's just really silly, in my humble estimation. And it's also not the reason you lost. You lost because you got one run off of a bad major league pitcher right now. One. And you should have only scored one run the entire game, if not for just mind-numbingly incompetent defense. Of course, the Mariners had their own incompetent defense today, too. George Kirby against Tariq Skubal tomorrow. It's going to be live for MyOI enthusiasts. I promise not to yell at you. It's $4.99 a month. You get that. You get prospect rankings. You get a bunch of other cool videos. I'm going to do one on the top Mariner first baseman, a whole bunch of stuff. You'll get discounts when the merch finally drops. It was supposed to drop a couple weeks ago. Stuff happens. This one irked me. This was a very annoying baseball game. And scorekeepers, you're just